Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationships with updates, of course. If you do love a Reddit story, please consider clicking that like, subscribe, notification bell too, and let's crack straight on with today's stories. And our first post, as I said, does follow with an update from Adept Advance 4650, who says, "Did my girlfriend just try to end me? What do I do?" So I'm posting this here because I feel like I'm going crazy. Me, 20, and my girlfriend, 21, have been together for almost a year. We have had a great relationship until this event recently. We're both in college and we've had a Friendsgiving event to go with our group. It was a potluck sort of thing, everyone brings your own dish. I brought mac and cheese and my girlfriend also made some brownies. I'm only mentioning this because it's relevant because I am deathly allergic to walnuts. My girlfriend knows this. If she gets me food, she makes sure there's none in it whatever she brings, and I usually ask again just in case as a reminder because you'd be surprised what has what in it. Later at the party, I was going over to have one and asked her to make sure there were no walnuts, and she said there weren't. I went ahead and ate one. Then I began to feel a bit dizzy and nauseous. I went over to my girlfriend and mentioned that I didn't feel so well, asking again about walnuts or cashews in the brownie, and she said no. She said I was fine and to just enjoy the party. Then I realized I was starting to break out into hives and my throat was itching and I realized I was having a reaction. At this point I felt my tongue start to swell up and I could feel my airway getting smaller, which is extremely scary as it means I was going into anaphylactic shock. I asked her for my EpiPen. Usually keeps in her purse when we go places since I don't have a bag, but she said it was in the car and ran out to get it. I used it on myself and had to go to the hospital. It was really embarrassing because I basically killed a party for everyone, but everyone was just glad I turned out okay. This is where there's a problem. I didn't eat anything at the party except the apple cider and that brownie. I asked my girlfriend about it again and she broke down crying, saying she did put them in there as it was in the recipe but forgot when I asked. Apparently she remembered after I had to go to the hospital and felt really embarrassed it took so long to remember and didn't want to tell me. I feel like she's lying to me. She never buys anything or cooks with walnuts. She said she hates them. But then she put them in the brownies and then forgets. She did after asking her twice and saying I'm going to eat them. She has known I'm deathly allergic ever since we started dating and I don't know how she forgot twice, especially if she literally made them 2 hours before. The problem is, if she did it on purpose, that literally makes no sense either. I don't see why she would ever do something like that, but I also don't see how it could be an accident. I'm just very confused and concerned. In all honesty, I really like her, but I'm tempted to leave after that because the whole ordeal was very scary and I can't help but blame it on her. But I'm also scared I'm overreacting and maybe it really was an accident. I'm just not sure. Holy moly, and I got to say I'm equally as confused as OP in this one as well. Your girlfriend knows you're deathly allergic to nuts. She never cooks with nuts anyway because she doesn't like them, but she put them in this time because of the recipe, even though she wouldn't be able to eat the brownies because she doesn't like walnuts. She knows you don't like nuts, so why would she put them in there in the first place? But why would she do it anyway? I mean, she brought the EpiPen along. If she was really trying to do something evil, let's say, why would she bring the EpiPen? Is it something like she doesn't believe you actually have the allergy? But again, why would someone test that? That just seems like madness to me. Lots of questions here and I hope we get some answers either in the update or in the comments below. The food has in it says, and quotes, "If she gets me food, she makes sure there's none in whatever she brings me. She told me I was fine and to enjoy the party." Then says, "I'm not trying to encourage jumping to conclusions, but these two quotes are literally counts against her being just simply forgetful. Real sus." OP replies saying, "Yeah, I agree, but purposely feeding them doesn't make a lot of sense either." A lot of other commenters point out that some people think others exaggerate how allergic they are to certain foods until they see a reaction firsthand. I think I'm going to sit down and talk with her and ask her if that's what it was. If it's true, I have to think about whether I want to work past that or not. Semantic Battle says, "Does she ever do weird stuff and end up the center of attention? Get odd injuries, lose something vital, make you're late, see doctors for stuff that seems overblown? The only scenario I could see is this being a neurotic attention grab. Like others say, some people legit believe allergies are somatic, others use them for attention. I know a lady that keeps accidentally exposing herself to peanuts when her husband spends too much time watching sports or working. It's usually at parties or around groups. It's nuts. No pun. MouseChick69 says, sounds like one of those peachy grandparents who don't believe their grandchild is really allergic, so test it and act all surprised Pikachu face. Chirper says, I bet she was thinking it was not real and wanted to test the waters, and surprise surprise, she was wrong and gambled with your life. I would leave her. What person would leave an EpiPen if that was the key to saving someone? Also take your life in your own hand, never let your pen go. AmJ8 says, sounds like one of those people that thinks people with allergies are exaggerating and that intentionally exposes them to prove it. Little Red Carnation says, dude, she knew exactly what she was doing and straight up lied to your face multiple times and then left your EpiPen in the car. I always have mine close by just in case. I personally would never be able to trust her again. How could you? She may decide to poison you again after a huge fight or something. And Miss Veronica Slay says, there is no way she accidentally added walnuts to those brownies. She had to buy them, bring them home, crush them up and add them to the batter. It's not like you had walnuts hanging around the house. She would have had to completely forget about your allergy throughout the entire process of making those brownies, especially if she made them from scratch. It's not like she opened a box and they were already in the mix. This was intentional. Wow. So quite a few comments there saying that she's trying to test the waters, and I just find that absolutely crazy. Why would someone risk this? Risk someone's life to test the waters? Madness. But let's move to the update to see what happens. So update. Thank you all for offering your input and support. I didn't expect that many people to respond, and the kind words really helped. After reading over the comments, I believe my girlfriend thought I was exaggerating and faking my allergy and tried testing me by purposely putting those walnuts in the brownies. Intentional or not, she almost killed me, and I was never going to be able to get that trust back. Someone who loves me would not do that to me. I called her and asked to talk at her apartment. When I got there, we sat down and began talking about it. I asked her about what I said above, and she vehemently denied it. I started to relist off all the stuff that happened and said I don't believe her. I also mentioned how she's forgetting that, planned or not, she almost killed me. She began going on this weird rant and got angrier and angrier and began calling me crazy for thinking she's even capable of that. I held my ground and calmly said I still don't believe her. That's when she started breaking down and sobbing. She was sitting next to me at the time and kind of threw herself into my arms. She didn't even say anything, she just sat there and sobbed. I felt bad, so I let her. I told her that I had been thinking, and while I don't believe her, it almost didn't matter because now I can never truly feel secure around her, knowing she could forget something that could literally cost me my life. That was when she began trying to initiate sex with me. I turned her down and told her I'm breaking up with her before walking out of the room and driving home. I have been in an emotionally abusive relationship before. She knew what she was doing when she tried that. She never admitted to adding the walnuts in on purpose, but the way she acted when she realized I wouldn't budge almost confirmed it for me. Still, I really wish she outright admitted it for closure because breaking up with her fucking sucks. I know it's easy to look at this story and say I'm better off, but I was really happy dating her for almost a year, and now I'm completely alone. I'm not sure why she did it or thought it would be worth proving a point, but I guess I have to be okay with that. Either way, thank you everyone for helping me not let it slide and really standing up for myself and not giving into the BS. The advice was greatly appreciated. Any advice on getting over a breakup? Wow, and I'm still just mind blown at the fact that, you know, I know we've seen it in stories before, but it's still, I still can't understand the mindset of someone, you know, sitting back and thinking, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to test their allergy in a party setting of all things as well. I mean, not that any reason to test someone's allergy is okay, but why would they think of doing it in a party setting? Do they think that they can get away with it or what? Absolute madness. But what do you guys think of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And have you ever seen any similar stories to this one? Let me know your thoughts and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from a throwaway account and does follow with an update. Titled, Thinking About Leaving My Wife and Child. Thoughts. I'll 32 male be real. If it hadn't have been for my son, I would have ended the marriage already. Things weren't good back then between us. Wife and I were going to marriage counselling because I confessed to her I was falling out of love and wasn't happy in the marriage anymore, so she insisted we try to work out our problems. We did try, open up, have better communication, try to be more affectionate with each other and connect more as a couple. More romantic date nights and spontaneous trips, basically trying to find that spark again. None of it worked and I was ready to call it quits after a year until we found out she was pregnant. Now for me, I always thought we were set on never ever having kids. That was something mentioned when we were first dating, and I was pretty relieved she felt the same way about not wanting kids. To me, I just never liked them, not what I wanted for my life at all. But once we found out, she wanted to keep the baby. It was a whole other conflict. I didn't want to be a father, but she wanted him. For a while I kept bringing up the options of abortion or maybe adopting, but in the end that didn't go anywhere. Then I thought, okay, well, parents split up all the time, even with kids involved. However, that just gave me a lot of backlash from everyone about what an arsehole I am, because who even thinks about leaving their pregnant wife? I feel my biggest mistake was letting myself believe that maybe with a family we can make it work. Being there for her and the baby, that I'll just get that love for them and it'll work out along with the therapy we had done. Now I feel even more miserable. We have family time, date nights, when we manage to get a sitter. Free times to ourselves every other weekend if possible. I just hate it all. The only time I'm actually content is when I'm not home or get to have a little personal time. Everything going on at home makes me wish I left before there was even a chance of her getting pregnant. But I felt bad not trying to get some help first before throwing in the towel on our marriage. Now there's a baby involved and it's 1,000 times more complicated. I don't feel any closer to my wife or my son, who's about 13 months now. It's not his fault, I get it, he's a baby. Right now, he's been a lot easier to manage and thought by now I might feel closer to him. Sadly, I don't. Part of me just wants to pack my stuff and leave already. That part makes me feel like shit because I'm his father and wouldn't feel right to leave him without one. Just don't know if I can be what they need me to be anymore. Is there really any way to stop feeling this way? At this point, it's just like I want to walk out and never look back, but is it really the best thing? Edit, for those curious, we did not have unprotected sex. Never wanted to end up in this scenario, so condoms were always used, and she said she was on birth control. That's how it always was in the years we've been together. Edit 2, it's been brought to my attention that I should probably mention this detail for better advice. I just didn't want to include it before it was done in the past and my son is already here. But yes, I talked to my wife if this was done deliberately. The pregnancy I mean, and she never denied she had anything to do with tampering. It's still on me for having sex with her regardless, but she did have something to do with it. Like I said though, I didn't want to focus on that because my son is here anyways and nothing could be done about it now. And that question did come in my mind, was it done on purpose? Maybe thoughts of trying to save the family, misguided thoughts of that. But anyway, as OP said, child's here now, so here we go. And I think I've seen a lot of time in relationship stories and things like that when there is a child involved. There's no point in staying together just for the child. It's just going to make both of you unhappy in the end. And the child will realize that you are unhappy and it will rub off on them in the long term. So I think the best bet is, from what you're saying in this story, is that I think you do need that divorce. I'm no expert on this, obviously, but that's the way it feels to me and from previous stories that we've read before. But let's check out some comments to see what they say, with Hope saying, get a divorce. I grew up in a house with parents who hated each other. They didn't fight, but they didn't engage with each other either. I also learned at a young age that my father never wanted children. It was a miserable way to grow up. It didn't help any of us kids. I was so grateful when they finally got divorced. Now as an adult, I have a great relationship with my father. It doesn't mean you have to be an absent father or a bad one, but that is your son and you'll be able to decide how much of a relationship you'll want with him. As another poster stated, you may become a better father when you're out of the marriage. Staying helps no one. The last Baslope says you should leave. Your marriage should have ended years ago, and staying in a bad relationship just because of baby is never healthy. Your wife deserves someone who will love her. Your son deserves growing up in a home where he is loved and wanted by all the adults in it, and no matter how much you try to fake it, kids can sense when their presence isn't really wanted. And you deserve a partner whom you do love and want to be with. None of you can get those things until you firmly admit once and for all that this isn't working for you and never will, and put an end to it. You can still be his father without living there, and a bit of distance might even improve your relationship with him because you'd be happier with your life in general once divorced, and because it would allow you to spend time with him away from his mum, who you freely admit you haven't wanted to be with for years. Tell your wife it's over. If she wants to try counselling again, agree to going, but warn her that you will be informing the counsellor up front that the marriage is over, and you're only there to help your wife come to terms with that fact. Move your stuff out and file for divorce and at least visitation with your son. And AC says you can separate from her or even divorce her, but you are still legally and morally responsible for your child. The legal requirement is primarily financial. Even if you have your parental rights terminated, that does not lose you your financial obligations, unless she gets someone else to adopt your child with her. But morally, you know you have an obligation to the child. Have you considered talking to a therapist about how you might get more attached to your child, whether or not you stay with your wife, because these are two separate issues? So, update. I almost forgot that I had posted this, but thought I should add an update after all the help. Things have been tough, but getting easier day by day. I left my wife, soon to be ex. It was rough. Needed to happen though. If I wanted things to improve for my son's sake, I couldn't let myself continue to be stuck in the marriage I wanted out of already. For those who suggested this and why, you were right. It helped a lot. Not so much the first few weeks. It was so new and then didn't have a place of my own. For about a month I stayed with family until I found a place for myself and where my son can also stay. My soon-to-be ex obviously didn't take this well. She's brought some family members on her side for abandoning my family, but I didn't abandon my son. When I spoke to a lawyer and got the paperwork started, we also got a temporary custody order to make sure I still have time with him. It's only 3 days out of the week, but we're still settled custody stuff as we go through the divorce proceedings to get more time with him. Honestly, the time away really has boosted me up in ways I couldn't imagine. When my son is with me now, I feel lighter. Not trapped like I felt back then, and I know in my heart I can't ever not be in his life. No matter how he came into this world or what she did, he's innocent in this. Still seeing the same therapist, and I've been more open about my past to really get to the root of my actual issues in regards to the disconnect I'd been feeling with my son. Since some of you really encouraged me to be honest to my therapist about what happened, feels like there's been lots of improvement, and it makes me so hopeful for the relationship I can have with him in the future. He's still so little, and I know there's time to learn to be the dad he needs me to. Thank you so much to all of you here who took the time to really give me solid, amazing advice. At least I know that this was the best decision to make, and now I get to finally try and bond with my son without any negative feelings about my marriage pulling me back. And with a lot of updates we see is positives coming out of negatives, and what really jumped out to me in this update is the way that he's viewing his son now and the changes and more time that he wants to spend with his son. In the beginning of the last post he was saying no, doesn't want children, that's not something in his life, and now child's come along and he was down because of and he was down with being with his partner and stuff like that, but now he's separated, he's got his own life and going on his own path. He wants more time with his child, and I think that's an absolute wonderful thing to come out of this. And hopefully in time, X will realize it was the right decision too, and they can work together and co-parent together in a healthy way. That's the hope anyway. Whether it'll happen, who knows? There may be another update in the future. But what do you guys make of this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and what advice would you give to OP if you maybe put yourself in their shoes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending your time with me today. If you wouldn't mind, you could click that like, subscribe, notification bell too. All really helps out. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.